Hello again. Now this report is about water again. We've been giving reports on water for 4 or 5 years now, but doesn't seem to be much we could do to influence the government to apply the common sense. They still insist that they know what is right for you to drink. Now look, in this report I'm going to cover a news item from the local newspaper which refers to water. Is it suitable for drinking? I'm going to show you a water test sheet that I got from the government forensic laboratory, because we collected some water from the sky, and I'm going to show you the results of that water. I want to talk to you a little bit about CSG mining and the damage it will do. Then I'm going to show you a picture of the chem planes, and then I'm going to show you how they've got the patent on the chemtrails and the apparatus, which the governments and the media, everyone told you didn't exist, it was a conspiracy. Well, I'm going to prove to you they've got a patent on this conspiracy. And then I'm going to show you details on HAARP, HAARP, High Frequency Active Aurora Research Programming. That is a secret weapon, a weather modification weapon. And I'm going to give you a lot of details on that so that you understand that has been going on behind your back. You've been deceived by both governments. You've been deceived by just about everybody in our society. And the puppet media, who are owned and controlled by the same oligarchy and the banking cartel, will not give you any news reports that are true about it. Then I'm going to show you what is in the air, a composition of what's in the air, to show you that carbon dioxide is not a greenhouse gas. I want to give you some scientific reports on the sicknesses caused by fluoride, and I want to ask you to Google your own research on this subject, because there's literally millions of scientific reports on the internet that will explain to you that you've been lied to by the government right through to today. They are still lying to you, and they will not give you the truth. So let's have a look at it yourself. Come with me on this report, please. Now, to begin with, this is started about the water argument from the Northern Star newspaper, page 2 on the 14th of the 12th. And Mr. Fraser Quick, a research scientist on such matters, has issued an invitation for everybody about the water to come to a meeting. Now, as you can see in this article, Mr. Fraser Quick, an environmental scientist and resource management expert, was instrumental in the formation of the Northern Rivers climate change collaboration. Now, before you make up your mind whether this is true or false, I'm going to give you a lot of details and facts about climate change. And if you want to look at my previous report, I've already covered this matter, but I'm going to give you more facts and figures. Now, some time ago, I put up a report, The New World Order is Poisoning Our Rainwater. On your screen now, you can see that document of what was in the water that came out of the sky. I collected the water and I took it to the forensic laboratory of the government. And you can see that there is a high amount of aluminium, there's arsenic in it, barium, beryllium, boron, and so on. As you go down the list, and you can read it yourself, there's also a heavy amount of strontium. Now, these are the metals that were in the water that came out of the sky. And remember, the parts per million of minerals content in rainwater should never be any higher than 3 or 4 parts per million. This water that I collected from the rainwater, it was 37 parts per million. Now, I want you to understand that that is what's happening in the rainwater every day right over our head here in the Northern Rivers. Now, one more thing that's going to disrupt the ecosystem, every living thing, and our water table, is the CSG mining for gas. Now, there's a fellow called Dr. Wayne Somerville. He says the New South Wales Liberals have lost their way over the coal seam gas and need to rediscover their core principles and the wisdom of Robert Menzies, their founding statesman. In this essay, he says, I argue that the New South Wales government management of the coal seam gas industry represents a radical shift away from democratic, liberal, conservative principles and the economic rationalism to form a centralised command and social controlization. The Minister for the New South Wales government, this is what he says. The New South Wales government is extremely conscious of the need to ramp up the industry to avoid gas shortages and high prices, and if we fail to secure future energy supplies, we're going to have serious supply problems. But if you read the article, you can see that if you go into the YouTube report yourself, fracking, which is used in CSG gas mining, has been proven to cause earthquakes and been proven to destroy the underground water table. But there's an interesting article about this from the head of the BHP Billiton's petroleum chief, Mike Yeager. He says, we want to make sure that the market knows that we have plenty of gas supplies. We have an independent supply. And you can read that more articles than that if you go in and do your own research. There's a lot more reports that we have plenty of gas. So why has the government done deals with overseas people to come in and take over our farms and put gas mining? Now, the other thing that is worrying everybody concerning the quality of the water, whether it's good for drinking or not, and it is coming from chemtrails. Now, when we first reported about the chemtrails 5 years ago, the government denied that they existed, and the newspapers would not print a story about it, and they said that it's just a conspiracy. Well, you're looking on the screen at 8 nozzles that are spraying the atmosphere with chemtrails, and I think a lot of people already know about the chemtrails. But it's very important for you to realise that this has been going on for quite some years. And those chemicals that you just saw in my water report, in the testing that was done by the forensic laboratory of the government, this is where those chemicals and those metals are coming from, out of the chemtrails, which you can see every day over your head where you live. Now, when we're talking about water, whether or not it's contaminated or if it's good for drinking, suitable for drinking, you've got to understand, I'm showing you these clips to prove to you that chemtrails and HAARP are not a controversy. They're not a conspiracy. They are real. And in a moment or two, I'm going to give you more facts to prove to you that HAARP, which stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, is a weather manipulation program that has been kept a secret from everybody. The governments do know about it, but they won't talk to you about it. They won't admit that it's there. The newspapers have been gagged and told not to report anything about it. And if you look at some of my reports, you'll see that some of them have been showing the people the facts about this now for 4 or 5 years. But people still don't know that this is the cause for contamination of the water that you are given to drink. Now, when you see these HAARP clouds, I'm showing you how to identify the HAARP clouds. When you see these HAARP clouds in the sky, you will know that this is weather manipulation. And you want to know about climate change? Well, don't forget, when they started the game on climate change, their name for it was, first of all, global warming, climate warming. But because the whole world was in a global cooling, they had to change that. And if you remember, Gore came out here and he gave a lecture on the carbon dioxide, which I'm going to show you a clip on in a moment or two. He has 30,000 scientists that have sued him for telling lies to Congress, the United States government. Now you're looking at more of the different ways that you will see the HAARP cloud, which is forming after and in combination with chemtrails, the so-called conspiracy. And I'll show you now in a moment or two, I will show you the proof of how the chemtrail is designed to fit into the aircraft to spray these toxic poisons into the air that you have to breathe and the water you drink. And remember that I said before, the water that comes out of the sky should be no more than 3 to 4 parts per million. And the water that's coming down out of the sky now is up to 70 parts per million of toxic chemicals and mineral content. Now, on your screen, you are looking at the United States patent of how the apparatuses work and the date that those patents were issued, and you'll see it was 1975. Now, I want you to realize that we've been duped, we've been so gullible, we've been deceived, we've been told lies from every agency in the government, and the government with the media, the mainstream media, who are in total under control with the secret societies, and the secret societies, the banking cartel, New World Order, I'm talking about the CFR, the Trilateral Commission, they are all behind these bunch of lies that we've been told. Now I'm showing you on the screen now the breakdown of what is in our atmosphere. And of course, chiefly it's 22% oxygen and 78% nitrogen. But if you have a look on the screen there of a scientific report, it's got 0.039% of carbon dioxide. And I can tell you this, carbon dioxide is used in photosynthesis. All of the plant life, the oceans, require carbon dioxide, or everything on this earth would be dead. And carbon dioxide never rises against or higher than 0.038, 0.039, because if there's any higher level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, then it is used up by the global plant life and the ocean. Now, you've had this bunch of lies that's been telling everybody that we've got a problem with carbon dioxide being a greenhouse gas. First of all, you must realize carbon dioxide is heavier than oxygen, and carbon dioxide is dwelling down low where the plant life is. And how do I know that? You can't walk up a high mountain, because as you get up higher and higher, not only is there a deficiency in oxygen, but there's no carbon dioxide, and that is why the plants up in the high mountains are not growing. So you've got to realize that you've been told a bunch of lies to try and get the carbon tax. And the carbon lie is the gigantic fraud organized by the banking cartel, the oligarchy, the secret societies, so that they can charge every country a carbon tax. And the man that gave you the story in the newspaper today is part of that. He's part of that controversy concerning climate change, because the only climate change that is happening by the hand of man, through the HAARP, through the chemtrails, and in a moment or two I'm going to give you all the proof that you need to know that climate change is a fraud. Carbon tax is a fraud. And it is the IMF, for the global government funding, that they want to charge a carbon tax to all the countries in the world. And all of these lies that are coming to you from the newspapers, the mainstream, the television, they are not going to give you the truth, because they too are under total control of both the secret societies, and they're under total control of the oligarchy, the banking cartel, that are causing these box of lies to come to you. Now I will give you a breakdown of what's been happening behind your back through the secret societies, and every government is implicated in these lies, and you'll be able to know that there is nothing to be afraid of, nothing that you should be doing in the way of paying a carbon tax. So let's now go into all the details. You will have to read them yourself because there's so much to show you. You can stop the film and read it yourself. Now, first of all, realise that if you go into globalresearch.ca, you can get a lot more information on this matter, but I advise you and I urge you to do your own investigation so that you understand fully what's been going on and what is going to continue to go on. I've just put a red line around the most important sections of this. I'll read it quickly. In the broader sense, weather modification can be divided into two major categories: suppression and intensification of weather patterns. In extreme cases, it might involve the creation of completely new weather patterns. Now, this is talking about HAARP, and this is talking about the secret weapon that they have kept secret from you, hidden from you. As you can see on this paper, that they can make to order, whether they want to make to order for it to rain or for a drought or for tsunamis, for earthquakes. You're going to see that they have complete and total control with this secret weapon. Now, they have numerous ways of filling our atmosphere up with chemicals and toxic poison. Numerous dispersal techniques of carbon dust have already been studied, but the most convenient, safe and cost-effective method discussed is the use of afterburner type jet engines to generate carbon particles, and they're doing this while flying through the targeted air. This method is based on injection of liquid hydrocarbon fuel into the afterburner's combustion gases, and this explains why contrails that they said, they've now become chemtrails. Now, in this paper, if you can read it yourself, they can intensify lightning, increasing the potential and the intensity of lightning. Possible mechanism, it says, to investigate would be ways to modify the electropotential characteristics over certain targets to induce lightning strikes on the desired targets. Now, on your screen, you are looking at a chart showing you the apparatus and how it is transmitted. And realize this, they are sending up millions of watts of frequency and radio waves right up into our atmosphere, into our ionosphere, and that is causing so much damage to our wildlife, our ecosystem, which you're going to see in a few clips that I'm going to show you. Now, on this paper, if you can read it, I'll give you some of the pointers. It says, such clouds could be designed to have a wide range of properties. Even if the power levels achieved were insufficient to be an effective strike weapon, the power levels were sufficient, they would be an effective strike weapon. Now, it goes on further to say it makes what are otherwise the results of deliberate actions appear to be the consequences of natural weather phenomenon. There's your climate change ability. Now, this paper is showing you quite clearly North America is now suffering its 7th year of conspicuous and dangerous aerosol and electromagnetic operations conducted by the US government under the guise of a nationally concerned. Naturally concerned citizens watch it in fear as the military tankers discolour the skies with toxic chemicals that morph into synthetic clouds. And I've shown you some of the clouds earlier in this documentary. Now, you're looking on your screen how damaging this is. It's a glimpse into the new death technologies that are under construction. And there's a congressman, Dennis Kucinich, and I suggest that you get his report. You can go into the internet and you can get his full support. He's got a lot of reports on it, but he was unsuccessful to stop this insanity. Electronic, psychotronic and information weaponry, he called it. High altitude, ultra low frequency weapons. Plasma, electromagnetic, sonic and ultrasonic weapons. Now this is making holes in our ionosphere, but this is what is causing the death of the birds. Birds are dropping out of the sky by the millions. That's in my previous report. The bees have disappeared nearly all over the earth. And the bees, when the bees disappear, your food's going to disappear because we need bees to pollinate the food chain. Dolphins have been dying all over the ocean, belly up, and whales have been dying all over the world, belly up, washed up on the shores, because they tap into the electromagnetic field of the earth. Now, if they don't have that electromagnetic field of the earth, they simply get lost and they die. They're killed. And you will see in my previous film, there's literally thousands of tons of fish, belly up, dying. And when I saw all of the fish of our reef, the snapper, there was thousands of tons of snapper dead up there in the reef. And of course, all of the authorities said, oh, we don't know what's killing them. Well, I'll tell you what is killing them. All of these details which I'm giving to you here, plus the chemical runoff from the farms, is killing everything on the reef. And it won't be long before all of our good fish are dead and the birds and the ecosystem totally annihilated. Now, when you get a moment or two, you need to read all of this, but the main points which are really horrifying, it says these materials act as electrolytes to enhance conductivity. It helps the military radar and radio waves. The poisons on a par with arsenic, and they're proven to be very bad for our human immune system. Atmospheric barium weakens the human muscles. The inhaled aluminium goes directly to the brain, and medical specialists confirm that it oxidative stress within the brain tissue, leading to the formation of Alzheimer's disease, neurological diseases. And the radioactive thorium is known to cause leukemia and cancers. And down the bottom line there, you can see that the information gathering and for tectonic earthquake production. Now, already we have an enormous increase in psychological problems, neurological problems, Alzheimer's disease, and cancers. Now you know where it is coming from. Now, here's some proof for you of what is killing the whales, the dolphins, and the fish. And it'll tell you in this paper, by scientific definition, the missiles, tank penetrators, bunker busting bombs unleashed against Iraq, Afghanistan by the US and British forces in the so-called war on terror, they are all nuclear weapons, and refuse from the radioactive weaponry does not disperse, but it remains in the atmosphere, organotoxic, mutagenic, and carcinogenic to all living flesh. And it will be like that for the next 4.5 billion years. But it also tells you in this paper, the radioactivity weaponry, it is declared to be both illegal and immoral by the entire civilized world. And it has been used by the Pentagon in Desert Storm and the Balkans campaign and ongoing occupation wars against Afghanistan, Iraq, etc. Now, when you realise that this is something that they've kept secret from you, you weren't supposed to know about it, and they know what they're doing. They know how damaging it is, and that's why they use the media to tell you a pack of lies. Down the bottom there you can read, the non-depleted uranium contaminating the land, air, food, and water guarantees their painful demise. Using data from the United Kingdom's Atomic Energy Authority, nuclear scientist Lauren Moray calculates that the estimated 2,500 tons of depleted uranium used against Iraq in 1991 and 2003 is sufficient to cause 25 million new cancers. And is it a coincidence that all of the people over there, 25 million people, are suffering a painful death? The cloverleaf particles and the polymers saturating the air that we breathe, they are so small, 10 microns. They are invisible to the human eye. And by comparison, a human hair is 60 to 100 microns. Our scientists and the EPA report that because PM10 and the sub-micron pollution particles that bypass the lung filters and that enters the bloodstream, they cause radical changes in the endocrine and nervous systems. They can trigger high blood pressure, cause heart attacks, and cause heart attacks within 2 hours of inhaling it. They cause the blood to become sticky, make it tougher for the heart to pump, and increasing the risk of blood clots and vessel damage. Now, researchers in the Taiwan document a significant increase in the number of stroke victims with PM10 pollutant levels rise. The American Lung Association confirms that we are breathing more toxic air than ever before. No wonder nationwide asthma rates have been soaring in the recent years. Now, it's difficult to get all this on the screen, but I'll just read it. Experimenters are also dumping nanoparticles developed by the variety of military and industrial uses. These engineered carbon molecules as small as 1/1000th of the diameter of a human hair display bizarre chemical properties and are known to trigger organ damage. And a recent study in the Southern Methodist University found that the fish died very quickly when subjected to these nanoparticles. In fact, they had severe brain damage within 48 hours. Now, there was a secret release from the Pentagon report, but it's been conveniently leaked. And in this report, it tells you an abrupt climate change is the most fearful blank, I don't know what that is, and it's authored by change agents with ties to the CIA and the Royal Dutch Shell Group. And the report contends that abrupt climate change will lead to a global catastrophe of monumental proportions, including nuclear war and natural disasters, as whole nations will disappear beneath the encroaching sea and survivors will fight for dwindling food, water, and energy supplies. Now, in several of my reports, I've been showing you that HAARP is capable of producing hurricanes, cyclones, and earthquakes. Let me read this. HAARP transmissions make holes in the ozone level, creating yet another problem of hoboglobulum. HAARP, invented Bernard Eastlund, described in his original patent how the antenna energy can interact with plumes of atmospheric particles used as a lens or focusing device, which is used for making holograms to modify weather. HAARP is capable of triggering and causing floods, droughts, hurricanes, cyclones, and earthquakes. Now, there's just too much information to read all the time, but there's a point here which I'll just quickly cover for you. And this is through the US government. They conducted over 4,000 radiation experiments on individual human test subjects without their informed consent, and the delayed effect of decades of radiation exposure from weapons testing are today demonstrated by the US population. They're plagued with an epidemic cancers, epidemic heart diseases, neurological disorders, low fertility, chronic fatigue, obesity, thyroid problems, immune system dysfunction, and learning disabilities. I mean, if this continues, as I said in my previous report, how long will it take man to kill man? And that's why I went to the Bible and dug out all of the information that I put on the previous report for you. Because something, someone, somehow, this all has to be put a stop to. Because you don't know about it. They don't want you to know about it. Because it is about their greed. It's about the almighty dollar. And it's about having total control over every country. Now, I've just put this up so that you can get the internet links to get more information, and giving credit to the author of some of these reports. But I urge you to go into Google, ask questions, and understand that we've been duped, deceived, and lied to by every government department, and that includes our government here in this country. Now, some of the other issues that I have given you reports on, and you go into Google, as you can see on the screen, the Nile River, which has flowed a flood for thousands of years, that has just about dried up. And you'll know now that that country, completely without water, the fish are all dead, all of the ecosystem is destroyed, and you need to know that that is happening right in front of your eyes. If you go further, you will find also the Euphrates River is drying up, and there's no water in Iraq, and that country with millions of people all gone broke. The farmers have gone broke because that river also is drying up. I will show you something in the old Bible if you're interested. I'll give you the report so that you can see that these things were posted in the old book. Also, if you go in and you have a look at what's going to happen about the IMF, the United Nations has developed treaties with all of the countries, including our country, and our government now is subservient to the United Nations dictates. But worse than that, they are given the lies to hand to you, and there's nothing they're going to do about it, because you see they're under treaty to keep their mouth shut and to do what they're told from the United Nations. And the United Nations will take over this country, as it's already taken over 7 other countries in the world. Well, the question that's raised was, is the water that we've got suitable for drinking? Now, this country has been under the thumb of Fabian secret society politicians who has given you fluoride to drink. So let me give you a little background on this. Hydrofluorosilicic acid is what its real name is. It's neither natural nor passive. It's anthropomorphic, and that means it's made by man. Nothing to do with a little bit of low-level fluoride that's down there in the creeks. It's a waste product in the smokestacks of the phosphate fertilizer factories. It's used in paint, stripper, rat poison. It's an S6 extremely toxic poison, and it proves a difficult problem for these factories to dispose of. So they want to give it to us to drink. This fluoride poison is banned in Russia, China, and many countries. 5 states in the USA has also banned it. Twice in Australia, the referendum to the people said no. But the government came under the control of the Fabian Secret Society. The Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, most of the ministers are members. They are linked with the New World Order, the United Nations, the World Health Organization. And if you want to Google this information to make sure that I'm telling you the truth, you will find Professor Harold Hodge. He's at the Rockefeller-controlled Mullen Institute. He compiled the first medical science report that fluoride was a safe product to assist in the eradication of tooth decay. And this fake, fraudulent report was then sent to all the medical and dental services. Now, because it came through the World Health Organization and the CDC, our Fabian-controlled politicians, who are also members of the CFR and the Trilateral Commission, they've accepted it to push into the people, onto the people, without any mandate, but they will be assisted by the puppet media. Now, in the next couple of clips, I'm going to give you the details of just how bad it is to the human body and the evil sicknesses that the body gets. Now, in this report, you can see that there are 5 Sydney and Melbourne hospitals that have revealed a 350% increase in fluoride-related cancers and illnesses in the last 12 years. The Queensland government tries to hide these facts from the public. They are not made public. But the most important part that should have been made public to the whole of Australia, and the warning came from the ADA in America. They issued a warning not to use fluoridated water when making up the baby formula. Now, it severely affects babies, and it would be probably one of the back-end causes that causes autism, other neurological problems with babies, but in particular, the pineal gland is damaged by fluoride. And young children, young boys, can fall with osteosarcoma. That has been proven, but they won't tell you. Now, in this report, it also tells you that the Belgian health minister, she was pressing for a worldwide ban because of the fluoride is a step towards removing the chemical from the food chain. Europe's fluoride ban is a result of a report that was carried out by the Health Ministry's advisory body to the High Council for Health, which claimed to have reviewed all scientific studies on fluoride supplementation, and it concluded that excessive use of fluoride increases the risk of osteoporosis and leads to the damage of the nervous system. Now, if you want more information concerning the dangers of fluoride, Google it. Go in and do your own research, because you're going to find literally millions of scientific reports that give you the truth about it. So you've got to ask the question, why is it that our Canberra government, our state governments, all the way down to the local council governments, are pushing you with fluoride in your water? It's a poison they want you to drink. Why? Well, I've given you a lot of evidence, but there's millions of more details for you to Google, ask the questions. Don't be deceived anymore. Don't allow the government and the government agencies and the people that they are employing to give you propaganda to prop up the lies that they have been telling you. Now, I don't know if you're interested, but I'll tell you this much. Now, when I was a boy and we went to school, we all quoted the Lord's Prayer. And when I was a boy, and back in the 40s, 50s and 60s, our parliament in this country did not open until they also opened their parliament with the Lord's Prayer. And I'll tell you something else. The Ten Commandments on a plate was hanging in the wall of every one of our courts in the justice system. That has all just about been thrown out. Anything to do with God has been hidden and concealed from you. But I will put up a couple of charts that I have published before. You may know about them. I'll put up a couple of charts just to show you that there is verses in the old book that refers to poisoned water, killing of fish, killing of birds, etc., referring to the day of the Lord. I gave you a report and I entitled it, Has the Day of the Lord Started? Well, if it hasn't started, I don't know how long it's going to take for man to wipe out man, because we're in a terrible position. So I'll put these couple of charts up for you. You can do your own research and have a look at them. Thank you.